Hello, classroom children. Welcome back. Today is Monday, and as per the routine, you have English literature to continue. I'm your Yogesh sir, teaching you English literature through online class. Uh, to talk about what we were doing in our last classes, uh, we were making use of our second textbook, Echoes, which is a collection of short stories. And to remind you regarding your syllabus, we have completed uh, the eighth chapter as per the council's prescribed syllabus, right? So that leaves us only one chapter to go with and complete this textbook, and thereafter, okay, we'll be using poetry, uh, the remaining poems that we have in our syllabus. So, uh, uh, the chapter to build a fire, as you know, is an omitted chapter by the council. So this is a great relief on your part to prepare uh, the other chapters, okay, as per syllabus you have. Okay, so without wasting okay much time, let us come to know which is the last chapter that we are remained with. The last chapter that we are remained with is The Sound Machine, written by Roald Dahl, right? In this story, we will see how the author Roald Dahl is trying to make us realize that with the development of science, right, we also needed ourselves to take care of nature, right? That is what here, okay, the author is trying to tell us. So it is beautifully said by the author Roald Dahl, and basically, Roald Dahl's okay stories have very outstanding ending, right? And he is one of the beloved authors of the children as well as of the adults. So his stories are very well well needed, right? So let us okay now first see the introduction of the author Roald Dahl as given in your textbook, and to tell you this is the last chapter that we are seeing today, right? So if you are with a textbook, you may follow what I am okay reading the lines, and then okay we'll explain to whatever we can in this uh, online class, and thereafter okay we'll leave it for the next to continue. And to tell you, this is one of the longest chapters you have in the syllabus. So obviously, this will be taught uh, in a part wise, right, to complete the syllabus, right? So let's see now. So regarding the author Roald Dahl, the great author Roald Dahl was born on 13th September in the year 1916, and he died on 23rd November in the year 1990. Right? So in fact, he is an author who has seen the two greatest world wars, right? That happened in the world: the First World War and the Second World War. Right? He was born on 13th September in the year 1916 at the time of the First World War, right, in UK. Though he belonged to the Norwegian parents, but he was born and brought up in England, right? And in the world, he's known as a British author, right? And died on 23rd November 1990. That means you can not very far, right, to what we're living today. Okay, so he was a British novelist, short story writer, poet, screenwriter, and fighter pilot, right? In fact, he was a fighter pilot in the Second World War, right? So his books okay, have sold more than 250 million copies worldwide, right? So imagine okay how popular, how famous is he as an author, right? And he rose to prominence in 1940s. So during the phase 1940s, he was worldwide known, right, with his works that he wrote for children and adults, and he became one of the world's best-selling authors of that day, right? So he has been referred as one of the greatest storytellers for children of the 20th century, right? So this is what his achievement, right? As far as what we can know him, right? And look at his awards. His awards for contribution to literature include in 1983 World Fantasy Award for Life Achievement, and the British Book Award Children's Author of the Year in 1990, right? And in 2008, the Times placed Dahl 16th of his list of the 50 greatest British writers since 1945, right? So, in fact, Roald Dahl happens to be one of the noted authors of the world, not only of England, but of the world. Now, you see, right? So, what we know about Roald Dahl's stories, right, is that he has or he is known, okay, for the unexpected endings. His stories have the unexpected endings, right? So that is what makes us his stories readable, right? We like, okay, I mean, okay, reading his story till the end of the story, right? And the very present story, The Sound Machine, was first published in the New Yorker magazine, which was published in 17th September in the year 1949. Right? It has also appeared in collections More Tales of the Unexpected, right, that got published in 1980. Someone Like You got published in 1984, and Skin and Other Stories got published in 2002. Right? So the very present story, The Sound Machine, combines science fiction with conservation and a fantastic tale that hovers between illusion and reality. Right? So there is a mixture of science fiction and nature, how we should protect. Right? That is what is told in the story, The Sound Machine. So it's a beautiful story written by Roald Dahl. Right. Basically, Roald Dahl's writings are very humorous. Right. And he has very unexpected okay endings in his story. Right. So that makes us okay complete reading his stories. So let us okay now begin the sound machine and follow me what I okay read the lines for you. So the sound machine written by Roald Dahl. Right. So here we get introduced to Clausen, right, who is a crazy amateur scientist, okay, and he's experimenting on sound vibrations, right, he's experimenting on sound vibrations, okay, and as we know, we can't hear everything, right, be it low pitch sound or high pitch sound, right, uh, they are okay beyond our human capacity to hear, right. So if we hear all these sounds, right, we go mad, right. And this is what is told in the story, The Sound Machine by Roald Dahl. So here we go. The Sound Machine by Roald Dahl. It was a warm summer evening, and Klausner walked quickly through the front gate and around the side of the house and into the garden at the back. He went on down the garden until he came to a wooden shed, and he unlocked the door, went inside, and closed the door behind him. Right? So the story opens, right, on a summer evening. Right? So summer season was going on. Right? It was an evening of a summer's day. Right? And we see, right, Klausner, who is a crazy amateur scientist and the protagonist of the story, The Sound Machine, the lead role, right, where the story hovers around him, right, is Klausner. And we see him walking, right, quickly through the front gate and around the side of the house and into the garden at the back. So he took a side way, right, to walk from his okay, house, and then he went back of the house, right. There was a shed, okay. He went on down the garden until he came to a wooden shed, right, shed like a house which was made of wood. He unlocked the door and he went inside and closed the door, shut the door, right. The interior of the shed was an unpainted room. So inside the shed, wooden shed, how it looked like, it was unpainted. That means the painting wasn't done inside the room. Against one wall on the left, there was a long wooden workbench. So just opposite to the unpainted okay wall, right, there was a long wooden workbench kept, okay, on the wooden bench, among a littering of wires and batteries and small sharp tools, there stood a black box about 3 feet long, the shape of a child's coffin. Okay, then you see, so among a littering of wires, littering here means all untidy, scattered and kept here and there, right, and there were wires, colorful wires, and there were batteries, right, kept on one side, and small sharp tools were also kept, right. There stood a black box. So at the side of it, there was a black chest. There was a black box, colored black, about 3 feet long, right? And the shape of a child's coffin. So the box, right now, looked like uh, coffin, right? Which can, right now, a baby's dead body can be put, right? Such was the size of that box. So it was a small box. Then see, the scientist Clausen moved across the room to the box. So he went inside the room, right? Shut the door, and he went towards the box. The top of the box was open. So the top of the box means the lid was open of that box, and he bent down and began to poke and peer inside it among a mass of different colored wires and silver tubes. And then he bent down, right, to have a look inside the box. Okay, so there he poked, there he touched, right now. Then he, okay, pierced, right. Then he looked at it inside, right. Among a mass of different colored wires and silver tubes were, okay, knitted inside. Okay, he picked up a piece of paper that lay beside the box. So he picked up a piece of paper that was outside, okay, kept near the box, studied it carefully, put it down, peered inside the box, and started running his fingers along the wires. Then he put that paper back on the same at the same place where it was, and thereafter he put his hands inside the box and started working with the wires. That means the picture, the paper, okay, that was kept at the side. It had a diagram. It had a picture, right? The connection of wires, okay, from one knob to the other, right? Then according to that, he began to work inside the box. Right, tugging gently at them. Tugging means here pulling hard, trying to pull it hard, right, and fixing it, right, to test the connections. So he's trying to test the connections, whether, okay, he's setting the wires correctly or not, right, joining the wires correctly or not, glancing back at the paper, and he's looking back into the paper again and again, and, okay, working with his hand inside the box, right. So that paper uh, a paper of diagram, right. Okay, so you see, okay, in physics, okay, the diagram is given, right, where to connect, okay, which wire, right. So according to that, okay, he was fixing the wire inside the box, checking each wire, and he was checking each wire whether it was working or not, right. He did this for perhaps an hour, so it took him, okay, about 60 minutes to continue with that work, right. Then see, then he put a hand around to the front of the box where there were three dials, and after fixing it inside the wires, then he, okay, came to the front, the face of the box, right. There were three dials. Dials are the knobs, right, the switches, like, right. And he began to twiddle them, and he began to twist them. So it was a roundish knob, just like, okay, you have a fan, okay, regulator, right, that increase, okay, the speed and decrease the speed. Likewise, okay, there were knobs, right, just like the knobs you have in the gas stove, right. And began to twiddle them, and he began to twist them, right. That means to switch it on, watching at the same time the movement of the mechanism inside the box. So as he was switching it on, the knob, right, the dial, he was also looking inside the box whether it is working or not, right. All the while he kept speaking softly to himself, and as he was doing it, and he was, okay, speaking to himself, right, though softly, right, maybe, okay, trying to make himself understand what he was doing, okay, nodding his head, and he was nodding his head also. That means he is cross-examining himself, right, fixing it, connecting it, and again, okay, switching it, and talking to himself, and again, okay, nodding his own head, right. So smiling sometimes, right, and when perhaps it was working, so he had a smile on his face, right. His hands always moving, but he did not rest with his hands. He kept on working with his hands, the fingers moving swiftly, right, and the fingers were very agile in the work, right. They were swiftly moving, they were quickly moving, deftly means quickly, right. He was working with the fingers inside the box, his mouth twisting it into curious shapes, right, when a thing was delicate or difficult to do, right. And as per his tightening, or as per okay, loosening, right, he had the expression on the face. You may have noticed, okay, many of the people, while at work, right, they twist their face, right, no, their faces, okay, with the work they do, right. So when you apply the force into the work, you tighten your face, yes or no, right. So likewise, okay, he was also trying to do, and he himself was affirming it, right. So he was saying, yes, yes, right, this is the correct, okay, the right connection, he was telling. And now this one, and now he'll have to join this wire to the next wire, right. Yes, yes, he said, but is this right, but is this workable, right. He was just trying to find out the the matching wires right now, right? The testing of this matching wires will be done at the last. Okay, then see, is it, where is my diagram? And if he has any confusion regarding the connection of the wires, right, to certain clear the screws or certain clear the devices inside, he was checking out the diagram in the paper, right? And he was going through it, and as per it, he was fixing it. Okay, yes, of course, yes, that's right. And now, good, yes. So when he's joining it correctly, he's applauding himself, right? He's encouraging himself. Yes, this is the right connection. This is the right connection, he was telling, right? So he was, you can say, a mad like in what he was doing, right? First of all, he was all alone, right? And when he was working, he was talking to himself, he was smiling, he was making his faces, right? And so on, right? Perhaps clear he was a mad like scientist. Okay, then see, his concentration was intense, right? So that means his concentration was given full 100% concentration he was applying to what he was doing, right? So it was not a simple task that he had, that he was experimenting. Then see, his movements were quick, but he was very sharp in doing the movements, right? Very quick in making his movements. There was an air of urgency about the way he worked, right? So when you see him working there, you will feel that yes, he is very urgent to complete this work. That was the kind of work he was doing it, of breathlessness, and perhaps he was even not breathing, right? He was so quick at doing the work, of strong suppressed excitement, and he was very much excited to what he was doing, right? So unless you have the interest of doing something, right, you will not enjoy what you are doing, right? And you see, scientist, right, Clausen was with full of excitement to what experiment he was experimenting. Okay, then see. Suddenly, he heard footsteps on the gravel path, right? So when he was paying the full attention to his work, what he was doing, suddenly he heard some footsteps coming outside the wooden shed, right? That was on a stony path, right? Outside. And he straightened and turned swiftly as the door opened, and a tall man came in, right? And he got alerted, right? The footstep came closer to the door got open, right? Uh, Scientist Clausen, he stood upright, and he looked towards the door who had come, right? And when the door got open, there stood a tall man, right? It was Scott, right? So the person was not unknown, he was a known person, right? He was Scott. It was only Scott, and he was all alone. The person who got in just now was all alone. So it is referred only Scott, right? Beside him, there was no one. The doctor, right? And who he was? He was the doctor, Dr. Scott, right? And he was a family doctor of Clausen, right? Well, the doctor said. So this is where you hide yourself in the evenings. So when the doctor came in, right, and he told Clausen, right, well, perhaps I was searching you everywhere in the house, right? And when nobody was there, right, at your home, I took the way back, right, and came to this wooden shed, okay? And when I got in, I saw you here, right? So this is the place where you, right, are completely lost in the evenings. The doctor, cracked a joke on scientist Clausen, okay? Right, so that most of the evenings you are here, right, not at your home. Then see, hello Scott, Clausen said. Then scientist Clausen greeted him, right? Hello Scott, Dr. Scott, right? So what makes you come here, right? It was an indirect way to, right now, ask. I happened to be passing, the doctor told him, and the doctor said that I was just passing your home, right? I was going somewhere, passing your home. So I dropped in to see how you were. I just felt that I should come and see once, right? He said, since I'm your family doctor, right? So I felt better that I should at least, right, get into you once, right? He said, there was no one in the house. So first I entered your home, right? I called, right, your name, but nobody responded, right, in the house. So I came on down here. So I took the way back, and I got you here. He said, how is that throat of yours been behaving, right? And then clear, he asks Clausen, so how is your throat now, right? Is it all right? So that means that a few days back here Clausen suffered with the throat ache, the throat pain, right? And he consulted his family doctor, Dr. Scott, right? So Dr. Scott, okay, clear when he was passing his house, so he felt better that at least, okay, he would give a glance to his client, to his patient once. He said, no, so he had come in. Okay, it's all right, it's fine. So Clausen replied that he is now perfectly fine, right? There's no trouble, there's no problem with his throat pain now. No, now I am here, I might as well have a look at it. So doctor said, now I have come here, right? So if you are still unwell or if there is any problem regarding your throat pain, so I can okay examine, right? I can okay see once, right? And if need be, so I may prescribe a new medicine for you, right? The doctor began to feel the tension in the room. However, the doctor began to feel tension because he saw so many things here and there, and unpainted house, and all those okay things are okay kept untidily here and there, a small box, right? So and wires, these that, right? So he was quite tense okay when he was in the room. He looked okay at the black box on the bench. Then he looked at the man. You have got your hat on, he said, right? And then okay, what doctor said? The doctor looked at the black box, right? That was kept on the bench. Then he looked at the man. Then he looked at Clausen, scientist, right? And then he addressed him. You have okay, got your hat on, he said. So you are still wearing the hat, he said, right? Oh, have I? Clausen reached up, removed the hat, and put it on the bench, right? And then okay, here, scientist Clausen, as though absent-minded, as though forgetful, right? To remove his hat or cap, he then okay opens it and keeps it okay at the side, right, on the bench. Okay. The doctor came up closer and bent down to look into the box. So the doctor walked ahead, right, and he wanted to know what was Clausen doing there in the box. So he gave a look inside the box. So what's this? He asked. Making a radio, right? The doctor okay asked Clausen, right? So what is this box? He asked, right? And then he okay thought that he perhaps okay these are all okay wire connections, right? So he asked okay scientist Clausen, right? Are you making a radio? He asked, right? And what did Clausen say? No, just fooling around, right? So Clausen okay said no, of course not. I'm not making a radio. I'm just trying to fool around. He said, right? So see, it's got rather complicated looking in arts. Then doctor okay peers inside, right? So many different colors of wires connected here and there he sees, right? And then says, right? It's very complicated okay things inside what you have put, right? Doctor said, yes. Clausen seemed tense and okay distracted. And Clausen said, yes, right? It's quite complicated, right? What you said, okay? And he seemed tensed because he was very much you can say concentrated okay to what he was doing, and suddenly he got a disturbance, right? Though doctor came in asked about his health, right, but still it's a disturbance okay to him because he was in one mind continually doing it, right? And so he was distracted means he was quite diverted from his intention to what he was doing, right? He was solely involved in, right, making that okay that's something in the box, right? What is it? The doctor asks. Now, if it is not the radio that you're making, then what is it? The doctor questioned Clausen. It's rather a frightening looking thing, isn't it? And he said, it looks very frightening. It looks very dangerous. Right? What you're making. Right? So, doesn't it look like it? He asked. Right? So, it's just an idea, said Clausen. And Clausen said, it's just an idea. Right? Something came to my head. Right? Okay, so I was just okay putting my head into it. Right? He said. Right? Yes. The doctor okay said. It has to do with sound, that's it, right? But in conclusion, right, here Clausen said to the doctor, he said that is something okay that is related to sound, right? That's it, he said. Okay, that means he's doing something in relation to sound, right? He told that. Good heavens, man, right? Hearing this, the doctor was surprised. So he says, oh God, right, man, good heavens means, oh God, right? I'm very surprised. Right? Don't you get enough of that sort of thing all day in your work? And he says, don't you feel bored? Don't you feel okay, very much okay, irritated with working with so many wires here and there? Right? The whole day, okay, you are busy here, right? Here, doctor asked or said, Clausen, I like sound. Then Clausen, scientist Clausen said that he likes sound very much. I like sound, he says. Okay. So it seems, and doctor said, yes, it seems like that, right? That you are very much interested, right, knowing about sound, he said. The doctor went to the door, turned and said, well, I won't disturb you. So the doctor felt here that is not necessary for him to stay there any longer, right? So he walked towards the door, trying to now clear himself. Then he turned and then said, right, well, right? He told Clausen, let me not disturb you then. You carry on. Okay, he said, glad your throat's not worrying you anymore. And doctor said, I'm very happy that your throat is not troubling you anymore, right? So, mm, but he kept standing there. But for a while, uh, Dr. Scott, okay, stood there. He didn't feel like going out, okay, looking at the box. So he looked at the box, though he's a doctor, right? He treats many of the patients, right? Many of the diseases, but never had he been so much, shocked and surprised to what he's seeing in that box, right? So he, okay, glared. He looked at the box and tried himself to scratch his head what it could be, right? He said, no. Intrigued by the remarkable complexity of its inside, right? Intrigue means he's completely fascinated, he's completely attracted to all those wires connected inside the box, right? Listen now. Curious to know what this strange patient of his was up to. And he was, okay, really curious, very eager to know what his patient, right? Scientist Clausen was really up to, what he was trying to prove, what he was trying to experiment, what he was trying to get it. Okay, doing that, right? So, what is it really for? He asked. You have made me inquisitive, right? So, Dr. Scott, right now, without knowing the answer, right, of his you can say, okay, confusion, right? He did not go away. So he asked Clausen, what is it really for? Right? So please tell me. You have made me very inquisitive. That means you have made me very, very curious. Right? So without knowing the answer of it, I feel, okay, very, 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 very uncomfortable to go out from here. Right? Dr. Scott said. Clausen looked down at the box, then at the doctor, and he reached up and began gently to scratch the lobe of his right ear. Right? So now scientist Clausen, what did he do? He looked at the right box, then he looked at the doctor, right? And he reached up, right now, and began gently to scratch the lobe of his right ear. So he used his right hand, caught hold his, okay, right earlobe and began to scratch. Right? There was a pause. Right? The doctor stood by the door, waiting, smiling. On the other side, Dr. Scott, is waiting, right? And he, okay, has a smile on his face, right? Perhaps, okay, he's now getting his answer of his inquisition, right? Then see, all right, I'll tell you if you are interested. There was another pause, right? So Dr. Scott, right now, was held back, right? And then Clausen said, all right, if you are interested, let me explain you. What is this? There was another pause, and the doctor could see that Clausen was having trouble about how to begin. And doctor could feel here Clausen was finding it very difficult to explain what he was experimenting, right? He was shifting from one foot to the other, tugging at the lobe of his ear. So what was Clausen doing? He was shifting from one, okay, foot to another, right? Tugging means pulling, right? Pulling at the lobe of his ear. Right, that's right. Looking at his feet, and then at last, slowly, he said, well, it is like this. And then, okay, Clausen began. Right? Perhaps, okay, he got the starting, he got the beginning to explain what his experiment was. So he said, the theory is very simple, really, he said. Okay, the human ear, he began, you know that it can't hear everything. Right? So Clausen said, right, holding the ear, right, Dr. Scott, right now. A normal human being cannot hear, right, all sounds, right, cannot hear all, okay, clear sounds, cannot hear everything, right. There are some sounds, right, which we don't hear, which normal ear cannot hear, right. Clausen said, there are sounds that are so low pitched and so high pitched that it can't hear, okay, them. So there are some sounds, right, which are very, very low pitched, right, we call it infrasound, which is very low, right, and there are high pitched sound which we call ultrasound, right, so which can't be heard by the normal human being. So the infrasound is not heard, right, ultrasound is not heard by the normal human ear, right. Yes, the doctor said yes. So the doctor affirmed it, yes, right, since he is also uh, related in the field of science, so he also quickly affirmed and said that yes, right, I do understand that there are some sounds which cannot be heard, okay, by the normal human ear, right. Well, speaking very roughly, any note of so high that it has more than 15,000 vibrations a second, we can't, okay, hear it, right? Now what did okay Clausen say? He said, well, right, speaking okay very roughly means just assumption, right? In my calculation, he said, any note so high, any sound that is so high pitched that it has more than 15,000 vibrations a second, right? Per second, right? So how is the hertz, right? 15,000 vibrations. We can't hear it, right? So it goes passing our ear. We can't hear it. Dogs have better ears than us, right? So dogs do hear, right? This high pitched, uh, sound, the ultrasound. You know, you can buy okay whistle whose note is so high pitched that you can't hear it at all, right? But a dog can hear it. Okay, so that's the difference. Okay, in the audibility of a normal human being and a normal dog, right? That the human do uh, not okay hear, right? Those okay ultrasound, right, or infrasound, right? Whereas this is audible to the dog's ear, right? Yes, I have seen one. The doctor said. So the doctor said yes, right? Perhaps okay, I know about it, right? One, he said, right? Now what further experiments here okay Clausen is trying to make, and how is he going to bring it into reality, right? How long will here Dr. Scott be there listening to the very curious scientific okay, experiment here the scientist Clausen is right experimenting, right? So we still have lot more questions coming up in the chapter, right? And many interesting things that we are going to come across. Those who are in the field of science, you will find it okay very interesting, because it is related to right science fiction, right? And where we are knowing here, right, experiments are done, right? So it would be interesting for not only the science okay students, but okay taken okay all students in common, right? So I'm sure that okay you love this story. We'll again okay continue the remaining portion of the story in our next online class. Thank you very much.